taking shape. The tournament is taking shape. We're into the second week of the FIFA World Cup in North America for 2026. And for some teams, they've been able to keep up the standards, while for others, they've been brought back down to earth with a bit of a bump. For some teams, they're already planning further excursions into the competition, into its more deadlier rounds. While for others, they're already planning the flight home and deep introspections into their football and where to from here. Hi, I'm the Football Otaku, and welcome to the second episode of World Cup Weekly, your weekly wrap of all things World Cup on and occasionally off the pitch. If you guys are liking the content, don't forget to like, to share, and subscribe, and all the other amazing stuff as we will experience this tournament together. Without further ado, of course, we will visit all six confederations, how they're good and they're bad, their shining lights and their low lights. So enough talking, let's start first with the home continent, the hosts of this competition, CONCACAF. It's been a solid week for North America, really solid week, at least for the hosts that is, whereas the host teams all got W's this week, and two of them have already sealed their places into the knockout rounds. First of all, I will start with the USA, and they were able to keep up that opening day momentum victory over Paraguay as they faced a much tougher, much more sterner Australia side. And I don't know what Pochettino was cooking with that US team, but they looked fantastic. They kept up that high energy, kept up the high pressing, and really suffocated the Socceroos in the first and indeed the second half, getting 2 goals in that first half, with Freeman with his goal, and of course with an own goal. Second half, though, you could see they were trying to more contain the game. They were playing a lot more passively than they were in the first half, and they did this without their captain, without the face of the team, Christian Pulisic, which is a huge achievement for Pochettino's men. The Socceroos never really created much. You could see that they tried to make the game physical, more out of spite, but America were able to hold on and were able to secure a victory and were able to secure a spot in the last 32 in Seattle. And I'll tell you right now, I've heard so many stories about the stadium in Seattle, you know, the home of the Seattle Sounders, and they have one of the best atmospheres in MLS, and of course the Seattle Seahawks in NFL, that they have some of the best home atmospheres in the NFL. Fun fact, Marshawn Lynch, aka Beast Mode, was at the game. I mean, great to see him. Great to see some of the great celebrities of American sports being attending these World Cup games. It's really a nice sort of cultural exchange. Anyway, back to Seattle. I've heard so many stories about how that stadium just reverberates with noise, whether it's the Seattle Sounders or the Seahawks at home, and you could just tell how much that stadium just reverberates with atmosphere. It was probably one of the most electric United States men's national team games at home that I have seen in quite a while for the national team. I mean, the atmosphere is absolutely electric. It was wonderful, and just the full-time scenes shows that this is a team and a country that's starting to believe, they're starting to buy into the vision now, and knowing that they're already through now to the last 32, they're going to be someone that no one is going to want to meet, especially the Europeans. They're going to be a challenge for anyone they come across in that last 32. Joining them in the last 32 will be Mexico. They took on South Korea, their long-lost, newly found brothers in Guadalajara. In fact, this was actually only the second time that Mexico have ever played in Guadalajara in a competitive fixture, which is quite crazy to deepen. Really tight game. South Korea really couldn't keep the momentum of the opening day. I mean, it's the host nation, of course. It's not going to be an easy game. But South Korea really lost about 25 to 30% of the momentum they had against Czechia, against Mexico. It was a very tight game. Mexico were definitely a lot better challenge than they were against South Africa. And it hinged on a moment, and the moment fell for Mexico, for Luis Romo, who scored, I think it was his milestone cap. I think it was his 50th or 100th cap. It comes from a goalkeeping mistake. I mean, the goalkeeper's unable to hold onto the ball. I think he's unfairly accosted, but you know, he doesn't have total control of the ball. Romo, who's just right there, just, you know, hooks the ball into the back of the net. It's a slender victory against a really good, talented South Korea side. but it's good enough to see them through into the last 32. And most importantly, it wins them the group, and not just importantly in terms of the competition bracket and the knockout bracket, but also it means that Mexico will play their last 32 and most importantly their last 16 game at home in Mexico, which means the only time Mexico will be leaving their country, will be leaving the country for the tournament, will be if they get to the quarterfinals, the fabled quarterfinals that they've been trying to get there for years. So it's a huge result for them. Canada hosted the Asian champions Qatar, and it was a phenomenal performance from Les Rouges. Absolutely phenomenal performance. They were fantastic on the day against a really hapless Qatari side. A Qatari side that was very antagonistic. A Qatari side that was very rough on the challenges and ill-discipline. And Canada did a very good job exposing that ill-discipline with a 6-0 victory, their first ever World Cup win, one of the biggest and most important wins in the national team history. Sadly though, they would be marred with some truly horrific scenes. I mean, a huge get well soon message to Ishmael Kone. I mean, I didn't see the injury in real time, but when I played it back, it's so horrible. I mean, you could, if you listen carefully enough, you could literally hear the bone snap on the TV. You can literally hear the TV or the microphones capture the sound of the bone snapping. It's a horrible injury, and I hope that he gets well soon, really soon. I mean, so it's a huge loss for him, but for Canada it's a massive victory, 6-0, which almost certainly seals their spot in the last 32 and really keeps them going. For Curacao, massive results. I mean, huge results. We thought the moments against Germany was amazing. To hold a CONMEBOL power like Ecuador to a goalless draw is probably one of the greatest things we've seen at this World Cup. Curacao just continued to amaze us. This wonderful tiny island Caribbean nation just continued to shock us. And also they had some really wonderful scenes where the King and Queen of the Netherlands actually visited the dressing rooms to celebrate their point. I mean, the goalkeeper room with 15 saves. I mean, he put in the ultimate shift at the end of the game, and 0-0. I mean, it keeps their incredibly slim qualification hopes alive, but still, it's a phenomenal result for them, if more than anything. And again, as I mentioned, very wonderful scenes of having the King and Queen of the Netherlands visit the team dressing room and vibe with them. I mean, for any of you guys who don't know, Curacao, despite being a independent nation, are still a extension of the Dutch kingdom. The King of the Netherlands is technically the head of state of Curacao, and Curaçaoan citizens are seen just as equal to their Dutch counterparts in Dutch law. For Haiti as well, I mean, it's Brazil. You can't really judge Haiti. I mean, they did a good chance at some point in the game of holding them, but I mean, Brazil's quality shone through, and sadly, they were blitzed away 3-0, which meant CONCACAF sadly would lose its first participant. The two defeats, Haiti would sadly be eliminated from the World Cup. And the 52-year return sadly would only be 2 games deep, but that would be enough for CONCACAF. Let's now go slide down to their counterparts to the south and see if they've been able to beat the fraud allegations from last week. There is improvement. I'm starting to see improvement. Not all of it, but it's there. I mean, the leading lights of CONMEBOL have been definitely carrying the South American Confederation during this World Cup. Of course, Argentina, Leo Messi, I mean, we couldn't get away with it. I mean, another wonderful record falls to him, the all-time top goal scorer in World Cup history. And he did it in really a kind of way that, I mean, you know, we all thought he would do it with the penalty. He misses the penalty, but you can't keep a good man down, as he was able to score his trademark goal against Austria. Even in the second half, he makes a great effort for his second goal, makes a fantastic effort to just to be able to take a wild ball under his control and to be able to manufacture the chance that essentially wins the game for Argentina. It now takes him 2 clear of the great Miroslav Klose, and he's now the all-time top goal scorer. And there's nothing stopping him from scoring more goals. With Argentina progressing to the last 32, just shows the mantle of the man Lionel Messi, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful moment for him. For Brazil, they finally got going. I mean, okay, it's Haiti, but still, I mean, you can see that Brazil were finally able to get going. They were able to get going. They were able to sort of get some intricate passing going. Matias Cunha with 2 goals, Vini Junior with 1 goal, an own goal, then Vini Junior with a goal on his own. And the game was settled essentially before half time. Brazil really flexing their muscles. Again, it's against the weakest team in the group. It's Haiti, but at least for Brazil, for their confidence, it will be able to keep them going and be able to keep them in charge and keep destiny in their own hands. For Colombia, I mean, great work. I think they're through now. I mean, this is their second victory. They defeated Uzbekistan, and they had to huff and puff against a very good Congo side. A Congo side that was a DRC side that is very, very physical, very, very tough, very, very resilient, and it was a very tight game in Mexico. But eventually they'd find the breakthrough to win in the 75th minute, and this would keep up a very upward trend for CONMEBOL. I mean, after the disastrous start that CONMEBOL have made at this World Cup, this was a very good week for them. There was some very good farming in CONMEBOL this week, but sadly though, you couldn't have it all their own way. It wasn't all the way perfect as they were held back. Uruguay again on the wrong end of a very, very difficult draw, this time to Cape Verde, a game that really felt they should have won, but Cape Verde really showed their resilience, showed their strength. And for Uruguay, they're under a massive pressure now. This puts them in massive jeopardy in the context of the tournament now, because the games against Saudi and now Cape Verde, these were games that they were supposed to win, and now that they've drawn both, they now will have to win their final game to have any chance of progression. The only problem is they're up against Spain, the European champions, and a Spain team that looked like they're purring, a Spain team that finally looked like they're getting out of first gear, and they haven't at all looked like winning their first 2 games. Now they're going to have to put in the performance of their lives just to stay in the World Cup. And the problem is, will they have the capacity to pull off that victory? For Paraguay, they were able to get a victory over Turkey. Huge result for them, especially after the big disappointment of the defeat to the USA. So them bouncing back was a great result as well. They were able to get a goal inside 70 seconds, fastest goal of the tournament, and they were able to hang on to keep their qualification hopes alive after their dreadful opening day against USA. And sadly, to wrap up for CONMEBOL, another frustrating result, this time for Ecuador, who were held to Curacao. I mean, inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable from this Ecuador side. As much as they've come to this tournament with a lot of hype, some of them giving the cursed dark horse label, yeah, it's not looking good. They now need to beat Germany on the final day to progress or have any hope of progression. At least the one good thing is that the Germans are already through. We'll talk about that later. But it's a damaging result for Ecuador. You could just see at full time how much that draw hurt them now. So it's going to take a really, really tough job for them to progress now. But generally, after what was a disastrous start last week, I think CONMEBOL, the farming has been good this week. The harvest has been good this week for CONMEBOL, for South America. The growth has been there. The teams are starting to get into their stride. Some are still lagging behind, but those who made a slow start look like they're getting better and things are getting brighter. But now from South America, we cross the Atlantic to the other big continent in this competition and see how things have been getting on for UEFA and Europe. Mixed bag. Real mixed bag. I mean, really good and really, really bad. I mean, let's talk about the really good first. Of course, UEFA were always going to get a lot of teams going through to the last 32. France, of course, flexed their muscles, defeating Iraq 3-1. I mean, we kind of saw it coming. But this was the first game that had a stoppage. For the first time, they had a weather stoppage. I mean, this is a pretty common thing, unfortunately, at the Club World Cup, where weather would pause games for as much as 2 hours. So that's what we got. But France, thankfully, were able to not be fooled by the weather, not to be cold, and Dembele, Mbappe, and that awesome attacking force was able to get past Iraq. For another victory for UEFA over Asia, Spain finally got the cobwebs, dusted off the cobwebs from the draw to Cape Verde, and were able to defeat Saudi Arabia 4-0, and it was a comprehensive result. I mean, we all knew Lamine Yamal was starting this one, especially after the result against Cape Verde on opening day. I think they would have really hoped that this would be the game where he'd really start, or the game that he really didn't have to play the Cape Verde game, but he did. But you could see that with him from the start, Spain just looked a lot more deadlier. They looked a lot more, they passed the ball a lot better, and really put the game beyond Saudi's reach inside the first few minutes to make it 3-0, and the game was done as a contest. And Spain now really look like the European champions, a team that we all were looking forward to seeing at this tournament. Another team that has progressed to the knockout stages, finally, for the first time in 8 years, Germany. I mean, but they made hard work of it. I mean, they were 1-0 behind to a very solid Ivory Coast side, but Dennis Undav, I mean, has been cooking in this World Cup, and he came through with two very important goals to see Die Mannschaft through. And you could clearly see just at the full time, the Uli Nagelsmann and the rest of the staff, you could just see how much it meant to them, the celebrations, just the sheer relief. I mean, you don't need to tell any Germany fan in Germany or around the world, or anyone with ties to the German national team, just how difficult the last two World Cups were for Germany, and how much it meant to finally get that monkey off their back, the nightmares of the last two World Cups off their backs, and to finally qualify for the knockout stage, and to do it in such a dramatic fashion against a really talented, really solid Ivory Coast side. To score two goals real late and to steal the victory, it'll give them nothing but confidence heading into the knockout phase. They still aren't convincing enough. I still feel they're not convincing enough, but they're definitely starting to grow in confidence, and they're really starting to feel themselves, and are really starting to get that appetite for World Cup football again. Switzerland were able to get a result over Bosnia. Oh, we're not going to count that result, but yep, Switzerland beat Bosnia. We're not really going to count that result since it was an all UEFA tie. While Czechia, on the other hand, took an early lead against South Africa, a game they really needed to win, but sadly were on the tide again, and yet would leave with more frustration, just like they did. They took the lead against South Korea, but sadly would bottle that lead for 1-1, and now they are desperate to win against Mexico, and that's going to be incredibly difficult because Mexico are practically unbeatable at the Azteca to go through to the last 32. So that tournament is already problems. For Croatia, they bounced back real nicely. I mean, after the opening day defeat to England, they were able to defeat Panama and Toronto to keep their World Cup hopes alive, and it really just comes from a moment. I mean, it's a game that Croatia, I'm not going to say dominated, but a game that Croatia really just played and shaded Panama, and were able to sort of manufacture the moment for Budimir with a corner, with a set piece. It's really agricultural, but in tournament football, that's what gets you by. I mean, Croatia know better than anyone. That's just what gets you by in tournament football. And that 1-0 sees Croatia still alive in this World Cup. While in the other game, it was a game of a real historical context as England took on Ghana, and it was a game that really saw the shortcomings of this England side. I mean, they were very much on the back foot. Although they did have a lot of opportunities against this Ghana side, they really just couldn't break the Black Stars down. It was a phenomenal performance from them, but for England, it's a performance that really starts leaving the question marks. Remember, this England team already was under a lot of scrutiny with its selections from Thomas Tuchel, leaving a lot of his, should you say, better players at home. And now with this result, it sort of has put the question marks on this English side, and all of the sort of positives that they had against Croatia have sort of flown out the window, and has led a lot of questions leading to their final game against Panama, a game that of course I feel they'll win. But now heading to the knockout phase of the World Cup, things are going to start getting a little bit booky now for them. It's going to get a little bit spooky for them. And I feel that would be, of course, there's a lot of other results that went down, but I feel that will be sort of the big sort of headlines for UEFA at this World Cup so far. From UEFA now, we head down south, down to the mother continent, to CAF and to Africa. As is life in Africa, as is life on the continent, it's also life for Africa at the World Cup. A life of absolute extremities. There's the really, really good, and then the really, really bad. Let's start touched on the really, really good. The fighting spirit. South Africa. I mean, from their opening day disaster class against Mexico, Bafana Bafana knew they needed to get something against Czechia, and they started really poorly, conceding in the 3rd minute again. Again, looking very flat defensively, and it's become a bit of a trademark with South African sides that we're very notorious slow starters. But you could see in the second half when we subbed on Rele Mufokeng, you could see the game sort of change, the pattern sort of changed. South Africa looked a lot more comfortable on the ball. We looked a lot more assertive. We looked good going forward, and you could see in the last 20 minutes, definitely after the second hydration break, we really looked a lot better, and we started really going at the Czech defense, and eventually we got rewarded. A shot from Tapelo Maseko would be caught for a handball and would be down to Teboho Mokoena, who has garnered a reputation for scoring for South Africa and for Mamelodi Sundowns in big pressure moments. He would enhance that reputation further with a huge pressure cooker penalty to level it up for Bafana Bafana and to keep them alive in this World Cup. There's still work that needs to be done. They still need to beat a pretty talented South Korea side. But heading into Game 2, South Africa have hope that they can progress into the knockout stage for the very first time. It's a huge result for South Africa, and you can tell just how much it meant to us to get that result. For Ivory Coast, though, sadly they were beaten by Germany. Came so close, and the worst part about this defeat, I mentioned it earlier in the UEFA section, but the worst part about this defeat was how much the chances the Ivory Coast had. They were playing a lot more in transition, especially after they conceded the first goal. They played to make it 1-1. They played a lot in the transition, and a glorious chance from Simon Adingra. I mean, he's put in the perfect opportunity. He's put in the box. He's begging for it. The ball's begging to be put in the back of the net, and he somehow just flops his lines, and then Germany get up and score. It's a heartbreaking defeat for the Ivorians, but it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, their last game is against Curacao, and the possibility of qualification is there. For another team, though, they are getting stronger and stronger, and that's Morocco. I mean, of course, the draw against Brazil was always going to be a great result, but this time they visited Little Scotland. They visited Little Scotland. When I say little, I don't mean the Scottish are little. No, I meant they visited the new Scottish colony of Boston, where Scotland have, of course, just taken over the city. And it was a game that, I mean, it was an atmosphere that's absolutely rocking. I mean, just listen to the flower of Scotland. It was just absolutely incredible. It felt like a home game for Scotland. But sadly, Morocco would silence the home crowd. And I say home in inverted commas. Home crowd with a fantastic goal. I think it was Ismail Saibari again with a fantastic rasping shot into the net. And really from there on in, Morocco were able to tie the game out. They were able to sort of tire Scotland out. They were able to sort of choke them out. It wasn't the greatest game to watch, but you could tell Morocco showed a lot of solidity. They showed a lot of structure, and were able to sort of stifle Scotland in their game, really frustrate them, deny Scotland of crucial opportunities. And it was one where you really had to dig in your heels, and for Mohamed Wabi, that's what the Atlas Lions did, and that's a huge result for them, and that sees them very much in the running for a place in the last 32. Those are, you could say, Algeria, of course, beating Jordan in a very important game. I mean, it's a game that had a lot of spice leading up to it, but Algeria able to beat Jordan to improve their chances. So that was the good for Africa. It was a pretty good week for Africa. Definitely much better than last week. But also, the bad was really bad. And Lord knows how much time I have to talk about Tunisia. I mean, after their pummeling against Sweden, they did the inexcusable thing and fired their coach. Sabrina Lamouchi was sacked by the FTF. Not just for the performance, but from what I'd read, There was a lot of sort of unsavory scenes, unsavory moments in the tunnel, in the dressing room, and even in the team base camp. So where Sabri Lamouchi had to be let go, and Hervé Renard came in to coach Tunisia throughout this tournament. And it was the worst decision they could ever make as they faced Japan and were absolutely taken apart 4-0. It was absolutely terrible. Tunisia, they essentially burnt up the rule book, they burnt up the playbook for absolutely no reason. Tunisia looked absolutely helpless. Renard had little to no time to implement his tactics, his game plan, his anything. I mean, there was nothing to implement, and they actually looked worse under him, and they looked so absolutely helpless and just couldn't lay a glove on the Japanese even if they really tried. And now they are the first African victims of the World Cup, and now they're practically the worst team at the tournament. I mean, shameful, absolutely shameful. And it's just an indictment of Tunisian football behind the scenes. It's absolutely terrible. And now they've come to this World Cup, they're out, and now they play the Netherlands next, who desperately need the goals, and it's only going to get worse from here. So I mean, absolutely shameful from Tunisia, absolutely horrible, and a World Cup that, I mean, the soul searching they're going to have to do. I knew they were going to be bad, especially after what I saw at the Africa Cup of Nations. I knew this World Cup was going to be bad, but we witnessed some truly dark things happen to this Tunisia side, and the soul searching they're going to have to do is going to be absolutely deep. The autopsy is going to be really deep, and the worst part is they haven't even signed a level of commitment to Hervé Renard, so which means he might not even coach the team when the Cup of Nations qualifiers come around in a few months' time, which means they did all of this for absolutely no reason. This was just for nothing, which makes it even more baffling and horrifying. I mean, terrible work from Tunisia, and I mean, I'm sure those guys can't wait to come home, if they're going to be even allowed home, and the improvements or the soul searching they have to do is going to have to be really deep, really dark, and really root and branch before they start the Africa Cup of Nations qualifying campaign. I mean, it's been a good week for Africa, very good highs, very low lows, but it's been a week for Africa where things have gotten a lot better than last week. Well, enough of the talk for Africa. We keep going and we go to the continent of the rising sun. And after the incredible farming that they did, could they be able to keep the stocks up? Next, we go to Asia. Well, the Asian markets took a hit this week. I mean, after the strong start that Asia made in the World Cup, unfortunately, though, the armor is starting to fall off a little. I mean, let's focus. Let's just get the negatives out the way. Qatar are the biggest paper champions I have ever seen in football, in international football. I mean, I refuse to believe that these guys are two-time back-to-back Asian champions, share a continent with powerhouses like Japan, South Korea, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, and yet they put up a performance like this. I mean, the defeat to Australia, to Canada, I beg your pardon, isn't that bad. It's just the problem is the poor discipline. I mean, I'd watched this match against Canada, and the performance, the discipline was absolutely all over the place, even after the red card. Now, I'm not gonna bash on Modibo for the red card. I'm not gonna bash on him. I feel it's a red card that the tackle is, of course, horrifying, but there's no real malice behind it. There's no real intention behind it. He didn't intend to break the Kone's leg. There was no real intention behind, or malice, or malicious intent. I mean, and even the way he reacts, I mean, he's just absolutely dumbfounded and dumbstruck and just absolutely, heartbroken by it. He doesn't even protest the red card. He just walks off the pitch, and obviously he shows a lot of great will by visiting the team, visits Kone in hospital. He visits the team in the dressing room to apologize, and the team let him know that it's going to be all right and that it's just part of the game. Credit to him. But what I hated the most is how the behavior of the Qatari players. I mean, even after that, I mean, you've just seen your teammate break an opponent's leg. You're down to 9 men, and you still commit these rash, brainless challenges where you're late on the ball. You don't get the ball. You're late. You're behind. You get all man and no ball, and you give away free kicks in dangerous positions, and then you get rightly punished. It's absolutely brainless. The mentality of the lack of discipline was absolutely incredible. I mean, from Qatar. And what irritates me even more, the behavior of some of the bench. Apparently, there was a real scuffle among the bench, and they were complaining that Canada were running up the score. This is the World Cup. I mean, this is the FIFA World Cup, a tournament you controversially hosted 3.5 years ago. You, more than anyone, should be knowing, should know that it's more important to running up the score is the greatest sense of respect, because it means that you respect your opposition, you respect the competition. What would you have wanted? Canada to play keep ball for the next 60 minutes and do nothing about it, and just turn this into a glorified circus? Brainless, just brainless. And these are the champions of this continent. Brainless, just brainless. All right, to everyone else, to Saudi Arabia, I mean, they were just absolutely outclassed by Spain. They were absolutely, every sort of positive that they had really just didn't matter against Spain. They were absolutely outplayed. You can just see the gulf in class in the Saudi side. I mean, they didn't really look disorganized, had no answer for Spain's pressure, and really just were played off and blitzed off the park by an angry Spain side. For Jordan, they came on the wrong end of Algeria, the wrong end of a result against Algeria. They did hold their own for quite a while, but unfortunately, eventually they'd be broken open. For Uzbekistan as well, unfortunate run into Cristiano Ronaldo and angry Portugal, and just had no answer. Sadly, also, this would mean that I think Uzbekistan are out of the World Cup now. The World Cup claims its latest victims. Jordan and Uzbekistan are gone. For South Korea as well, also they were the wrong end of a narrow defeat to Mexico, but also she showed a lot of weird coaching decisions from Heung-min Bo. I mean, he subs off Heung-min Son, his best player, in the 60th minute. Now, at first I was thinking it's just probably the altitude is getting at him. I mean, this happens, of course. We're playing in Mexico. The altitude is a little crazy. But subbing over for the 60th minute is a very weird call. It's a very weird call. And that really emphasized of what I've meant about South Korea, that they're a team that's very, very poorly coached, a team that is, they have a lot of deficiencies in their coaching, and heading to their last game, which is a pretty important scenario against South Africa, they're going to have to lock in, and the worst part is South Korea don't have a glowing record against African sides in the World Cup, so it's going to be a very tight game for them to progress. Destiny is still in their own hands, technically, but they're going to be up against a South Africa side that are desperate, and a South African side, or an African side, that really can annoy them. But for all the negatives of Asia this week, the one glowing positive, that still is Japan. Japan really carried the flag high and continued to show why they are the kings of Asia, with a dominant 4-0 win over Tunisia. And this was a game that really wasn't even a contest. Daichi Kamada getting the first goal inside the 3rd minute, Ueda making it 2-0 just before the break, Junya Ito makes it 3-0, and then Ueda with a 4th to make it 4-0. I mean, it was a dominant performance from Hajime Moriyasu's men, and they really stamped their authority and really stamped their authority as to why they're here at this World Cup. It was the performance. I mean, they showed a lot of the class, the fighting spirit, and the dug in real deep against the Netherlands, and then showed the class and finesse to just swipe Tunisia aside just like that. And that showed the real duality, the positive duality of this Japanese side, and why they, I feel, could be Asia's best hope of a deep World Cup run. For the Socceroos, sadly, they were defeated, of course, by USA, a game I'd mentioned earlier. I mean, it was really baffling calls from Tony Popovich. I mean, Nestor Irakunda, who scored against Turkey, you'd think that he he would start, but he leaves his two scorers on the bench and then he comes on. It's a very weird. I mean, he tries to play haram ball and that doesn't really work. I mean, I don't know what Tony Popovich was trying to do, but it just didn't come off, and he looked really tactically outclassed and smarted by his counterpart Pochettino. So sadly, after the strong week that Asia started with at the World Cup, week 2 hasn't really gone too strong. A few bodies have fallen, a few bad L's, but there's still a good chance for some of the Asian sides to make it through to that last 32. And that's it. That is the end of the video. I know I've missed a few results and a few talking points, so maybe sound off in the comments as to how well your team is doing or whatever I missed. I'll definitely reply to you there about my opinions. Thank you guys for sticking around. You're absolutely fantastic. You're an absolute warrior if you've stuck around. And tell me if you're enjoying the show, if what more you want me to talk about within World Cup Weekly. Maybe I'll add it in some other way, shape or form. I definitely do have a lot more other content coming through, World Cup based content, maybe not exclusive on this channel but elsewhere. Just look out for that. But that will be World Cup Weekly episode 2 in the books. Episode 3 will be coming out real soon, but until then, it's been your boy the Football Otaku, and never forget, real football always wins. Check you on the flip side. Deuces, bye bye.